So another month means another issue for Ultimate Spider-Man, and this one gets really interesting, ranging from Peter's family life to even an iconic villain getting a power upgrade. But for now though, we pick up in the Parker household, where we see everybody kind of flabbergasted and looking at Peter because, as it will turn out and we will find out, he had a pretty wild night, and his face is very evident of that, with his excuse as to why being, oh you know, I can just be clumsy sometimes. Because at this point, the only person in his family that knows his secret identity is his daughter, May Parker. And even with that, she found out on accident. But as his son Richard goes on to further question him about the events and what happened, as if your father came back home looking like this, absolutely beat up and trashed, you would definitely have a lot of questions. But Peter goes on to kind of tell a half truth, saying it's nothing, I was just working late again, and then the old Parker luck struck its head. Which confuses his son even more, him going on to say, I still don't get it. How do you get a shiner like that working at the Daily Bugle? But just then, his daughter May, being a 10-year-old little girl and all, goes on and splurts out saying, Dad got it from being a superhero, and even though she stopped herself short, the damage was still done. Alerting not only his son now, but also MJ too, that there is something that Peter isn't telling them. And so with MJ now getting suspicious, Peter finally decides to let it all out. As you then cut over to the day before, where we see Fisk Tower and Wilson Fisk himself getting out of some vehicle. As we pan out high above and see his apartment is being stalked. Stalked by who? Well, none other than Spider-Man working with this universe's Green Goblin, Harry Osborn. They've been planning and gathering to invade Wilson Fisk's apartment for many days now, with this finally being the time that they decide to strike, with the Green Goblin asking Spider-Man, are you ready to go in? But Peter is pretty much unsure, with him going on to explain, I've never broken into anyone's house before, or really any law in general. Which I mean, in and of itself, technically isn't true, as being a vigilante, especially in New York, is already illegal. So just being Spider-Man himself is already breaking some laws. But the Green Goblin goes to reassure him, telling him it's really just a necessary evil. But Harry made the mistake of using his real name, Peter, in which obviously Spider-Man doesn't like, with him saying, don't use my real name when we're in costume, use a code name or something. But at this point in time, Peter and Harry don't really have code names or special names for who they are and what they're doing. Yeah, Peter has a suit, powers, and motivation, but not really a name. But that will change real soon. With that out of the way, they then decide it's go time, as they eye the glass above his apartment, getting ready to jump in. And as they crash down, Spider-Man makes a note saying, oh great, and that's destruction of property, marking his first broken law. And as they get in and arrive, we then see Fisk speak up, saying, "Aw, company, what a surprise. Can't you see how surprised I am?" As he says, completely calm and level-headed, because Wilson Fisk is nothing but prepared. Because as he goes on to further say and explain, the entirety of Manhattan is his. Every camera in a 3-block radius feeds directly into his building, so he has been aware that Peter and Harry has been watching him for days, and he was even beginning to wonder when they were going to show themselves. But now that they actually are here, he goes on to ask them what do they even want, with Harry going on to explain, I know that you answer to someone, and that all this goes much deeper than it appears, and we're here to find that out. And how does he even know this in the first place? Well, if you remember from the last issue, at the end Harry captured and basically tortured Fisk, assassin and right-hand man. But still, big old Wilson still isn't surprised, as he says, well, he wasn't really my guy, but I guess there is a lesson in all of this. If you want something done, you do it yourself. As just then, Spider-Man's spider sense starts to activate and go off, as Wilson presses a button and Spider-Man realizes it's a trap as a giant metal gate encasing the 3 of them inside. As Wilson throws the entire desk, starting this 2v1 battle. But again, Spider-Man's spider sense goes off, allowing him to swiftly dodge it. But Harry is hit. And with the Green Goblin momentarily down, Spider-Man then jumps in, webbing Wilson's face, with him going on to say, what is wrong with you? Without his armor, that probably would have killed him. But the Kingpin just says that is the idea, as he gets his hands on Spider-Man, grabbing him by the throat. But before anything else could happen, he gets shot in the back by the Green Goblin's energy beam, as the Goblin is back up and throws a pumpkin bomb, hitting Wilson point blank and exploding. And right here is where things get pretty interesting, as we see the smoke clear and the Kingpin without his shirt, in which we can see markings all over his chest, arms, and back, things that the normal Kingpin don't really have, with him going on to say, that normally would have hurt, but recently I have had some work done, undergone some self-improvement. As you see, whatever these markings are, whether it be magic, some kind of tech implant, science, or just a general power upgrade, it makes Fisk way stronger than he normally is, as we will even see evidence of that, with him bull rushing towards the Green Goblin, pinning him down and striking him across the face, cracking his helmet open. And this is impressive for one of two reasons. One, Fisk is doing this with his bare hands and pure strength, and two, the Green Goblin's armor was a repurposed Iron Man suit, meaning if you're powerful enough in pure strength to crack an Iron Man suit with your bare hands, you are no laughing matter. And as the Green Goblin is pinned on the ground, helpless to the Kingpin's hits, suddenly in return this time he is saved by Spider-Man as he grips the Kingpin's arm. But getting in close like this is a two-way street, as now the Kingpin has his hands on Spider-Man, grabbing him and cracking him through the floor. But as Spider-Man starts to get up, Kingpin gets serious, ready to seriously hurt Peter, as we see just how massive he is in comparison. And he starts to absolutely wail on him, punching him across the face multiple times as Peter just sits there and tanks it all, which is impressive for Peter and his durability, as just one of these strikes was able to crack an Iron Man suit, yet Peter is here tanking many of them. But of course not without injury, but he still tanked them nonetheless. And as the Green Goblin gets up, he then sees that the odds are not really in their favor right now, as he calls in his little glider to shoot missiles blowing the apartment up, separating the Kingpin from the duo. And with this distraction, the Green Goblin is able to help Spider-Man to his feet and onto his glider as they fly out of there, all while the Kingpin stands and laughs, knowing that he got his message across. And with that out of the way, we now see how Peter got his damaged face, and so with that we cut over to where we are now, with Peter still sitting eating dinner with his family. And after explaining to them all what happened, his son Richard then goes on to ask, "So you broke into someone's home and tried to beat him up? Isn't that against the law?" And of course that is the same exact thing Peter was trying to say before to the Green Goblin, but he then clarifies to his family, saying that the Kingpin is a very bad man doing very bad things. And sure, he might admit that there might be some personal and professional grievances at play, but someone has to stop him. And him being what he is now, a superhero, that is kind of the stuff he does. But as his family can see, it doesn't come without the obvious risk. As with Peter being a hero now and going out to save people, he instead puts his own life at risk, with his daughter going on to ask him, "Are you going to have to fight him again?" Peter simply says, "We can't just let him going on to do bad things to good people." And with this, MJ herself starts to speak up, saying, "Right, but are you safe? Are we safe?" And Peter says yes, he believes so. No one who isn't a friend knows about his secret identity, and he plans to keep it that way, meaning that this from now on has to be a family secret, meaning they can't go on telling anybody else. And with that conversation and issue finally out of the way, Peter then sends his children to bed, telling his kids that your mother and I have to talk. And as May runs off, Richard, his son, stays back to talk to him a little more, saying, "You know, I have a lot more questions, but Dad, just be careful." And I wonder how Richard's story is going to play out, because in most future Spider-Man media, he usually has a daughter in some way or fashion, never really a son, and if it is, it's never really fleshed out, nor does he have any real notable moments. But this Ultimate Spider-Man series could really be the exception. And with that moving on, we then see MJ and Peter in their room, finally able to talk one-on-one, with Peter initially asking MJ, "How mad are you?" And as it turns out, she's not mad at all, with her going on to say, "A lot of confusing stuff is suddenly making sense, but I do wish you would have told me sooner," saying not only that she is proud, scared, impressed, and a bunch of other things. And with that, Peter then goes on to ask her if she wants to see the suit, and of course she does. He then suits up, and the transformation is pretty fast, as in this universe, Peter's suit is picotech, meaning it is basically like nanotech, and it could form around him instead of him having to put on each individual piece. And as it turns out, Mary Jane does like the costume, with her saying, "I think it definitely works." But she then goes on to ask a very important question. What is she supposed to call him when he's in costume? With Peter going on to say, "I have no idea," as he really does need some sort of code name. With him going on to ask MJ, "You have any ideas?" And Mary Jane, without missing a beat, simply puts her hand on the spider symbol on his chest, saying, "Oh Peter, isn't it obvious? You're Spider-Man." As we cut over to see Spider-Man swinging Mary Jane, now with his full identity. His suit, his costume, his powers, motivation, and even his family knowing, showing that even though things aren't perfect, they are really looking up for Peter and his current life. But of course that infamous Peter luck will always show its head once more, and it definitely won't last for long. But of course that is the end of this issue and the end of this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, or subscribe if you enjoy this type of content and want to see more on the channel. As always, this is the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.